When I was in law school, I was back in California after I left Howard, and I drove a Toyota Corolla. It was a fancy car for me. And I had a bumper sticker in the back window. Jesse Jackson for president.
Ah, yes. And the country found it impossible to imagine that it could have gotten any worse than that. And then the Democrats put up Kamala Harris to become president of the United States after 4 years of Joe Biden as president of the United States. The Reverend Jesse Jackson for a president. A very good Tuesday to you, and welcome back once again. We are at 888-630-9625. The death of the Reverend Jesse Jackson last night at the age of 84 years. 84 years. And he has now moved on. I was just saying a little while ago, the first time I met Jesse Jackson, I was in high school on the North Shore of Chicago, and Jesse Jackson came to our high school to speak to the largely, overwhelmingly Caucasian crowd, and he was kind of disappointed with us that we weren't yipping and yelling and howling and throwing things and stuff, and at the end, sort of dispirited, disheartened, he said, well, y'all got a little soul up here anyway. Up here on the North Shore. And wasn't that fun? It was fun stuff, I got to say. But the Reverend Jesse Jackson now gone. So we have that. And also the great Hollywood star Robert Duvall. Gone. He died also at the age of 95. 95 yesterday. Had been living on a ranch in Virginia. With horses and things like that. And not too far from Middleburg, I believe, is where Robert Duvall was living, had been for many years, minding his own business, being a regular guy, living in Virginia, not being a Hollywood person, you know. But with that said, speaking of Hollywood people, the Hollywood people all gathered in Munich, in Germany, and Democrats showed up because they thought there'd be free stuff for something they could steal. They could maybe corrupt something or ruin something, and they could praise Renee Good, who was an LGBTQ practitioner, and, kind of like the LGBTQ mass shooter at the high school hockey game in Rhode Island last night, a transgender man. And before moving on from the Reverend Jesse Jackson, this is one that I should have played up higher, actually, in his resume. But remember, Jesse Jackson was indicted by the family of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. Jesse Jackson he was there with Martin Luther King when Martin Luther King was shot and killed in Memphis, Tennessee, by a Democrat Party presidential campaign volunteer, right? And somehow that has been cleansed from his record because, isn't that great? James Earl Ray had been working for the Democrat presidential campaign for the racist George Wallace, who was the Democrat governor and was running as a Democrat again for president. And naturally, all the racists, Democrat racists, were everywhere. But the Reverend Jesse Jackson allegedly drenched his hands in the blood of Martin Luther King and rubbed his hands off on his shirt and his suit so that for several days he could walk around without changing clothes and say that Martin Luther King died in his arms when it was a slight variation on that. And that should be part of what is remembered when it comes to the Reverend Jesse Jackson. And let's not forget also about the interview that the Reverend Jesse Jackson did when he talked about being an employee at a hotel and how he would deliver food to white people staying at the hotel, and he would always spit in the white people food. Jesse Jackson would spit in whitey's food because, he's a racist. So Jesse Jackson, civil rights titan, South Carolina native, has died at 84 years old. And here's the thing, is that when you're a Democrat, your record is wiped clean every day by the New York Times and the the Democrat media, which is very corrupt indeed. But isn't that amazing? He worked as a waiter in Greenville County, upscale, the Poinsett Hotel, which was then owned by the Jack Tar Hotel chain, where legend has it, he told an interviewer, he said he would spit in the food of the white customers. He'd spit in the food of the white customers because, he's a racist, and it's the kind of stuff that racists do. There it is. Yeah, and the Washington Examiner had a piece way back in 1996, when the Washington Examiner had a story on Jesse Jackson, and they told the tale that Jesse Jackson, working at the Poinsett Hotel in Greenville, that he would spit in white people's food. It was, and it says here, presumably in a show of solidarity with oppressed peoples who are being oppressed by Democrats, and then they all spend their adult lifetimes as Democrats. Isn't that amazing? So he's spitting, the spittoon guy, spitting. He'd spit in their food because white. And, but when you're a Democrat, all of that is fine. That's just fine. Spat in white people's food at the hotel when he worked there. Gosh, that doesn't seem appropriate. But it became a reverend. So that's and then he knocked up that lady in 2001 who was a staffer of his. He impregnated her the old-fashioned way, and then they had a love child or a hate child or a threat child or something like that. Yes, sir. So we have that. We have that going. With that said, now that's it for Jesse Jackson. But I did want I'd left out the spitting part earlier, and you got to include that in his resume. And listen to this, because one of our brilliant callers, tell you about it, Mike, just called about something, and Michael Piercy went and found it on Al Gore's amazing internet, peace be upon him. Thanks to the patriarchy and white men, we have this internet thing. It's kind of an amazing tool. And Michael Piercy went and found the Reverend Jesse Jackson in 1998, praising, of all people, for being so great and working with him on Operation Rainbow Push. That was before Rainbow was all about gay stuff. It was just a rainbow. And Push was People United to Save Humanity. That's pretty grandiose, especially when you're trying to destroy humanity. But here is the Reverend Jesse Jackson, 1998, talking about then citizen Donald Trump.
I do want to express thanks to you, Donald Trump, for being with us tonight. We need your building skills. Your gusto. We thank you for coming tonight. Let's give Donald Trump a big hand.
Let's give Donald Trump a big hand. That was kind of a racist round of applause, don't you think? That was a little bit racist. But there's the Reverend Jesse Jackson praising Donald Trump for being a great guy, and now the Democrats just call everybody a racist because, they're the party of the KKK, and they got to try to deflect all of that away. So that's fun. I wanted to share that not everybody's going to use that soundbite of Jesse Jackson. And we have Mike to thank, who called in to point that out. And then Michael Piercy went and found it on Al Gore's amazing internet. Thanks be to Albert Gore. So isn't that something? Yeah, we got the trannies. We'll get back to that tranny, I think, the Paw Tuckett tranny attack. But right now, let's go because I just love her so much. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And yesterday we played a soundbite of her, which was pretty funny. She's talking about how she didn't know that horses came to the Americas from Spain, from the nation of Spain. And it has been pointed out since that her last name is Cortez. She's named for one of the conquistadors who slaughtered and massacred innocent native peoples raping, looting, plundering, all that stuff, because Cortez, one of the big raiders, European raiders and conquistador, and there's a song about that, Conquistador, Your Stylish Stance, got all that stuff going. But she said a lot of dumb stuff about a lot of things, but more dumb stuff has emerged. She did have the ridiculous, everything about the conquistadors when she is named for one of them, and she doesn't know, horses, cowboys, because Marco Rubio gave an intelligent speech at the Munich Security Conference, and he talked about American customs and traditions coming from Europe, and he talked about the conquistadors and their stylish stance and all that stuff, and then AOC lashed out at Marco Rubio.
My favorite part was when he said that American cowboys came from Spain.
I thought they came from Winnetou, but
I believe the Mexicans and descendants of African enslaved peoples would like to have a word on that.
She none of them was she's a biologist or something. She could trying out for the Supreme Court. She did. Now you're aware that the Mexicans weren't sitting there when the conquistadors got here. They were throwing all their children into volcanoes in the hopes of having better weather next year. It's kind of like the Democrats today, aborting 1 million babies a year and then pounding the table and pounding that we change the weather and the climate. It's like the Incans and the Mayans used to sacrifice their children for the same thing, because the more things change, the more they stay the same and all that stuff. And she doesn't know that Mexicans, the Mexican people, they come from Spanish stock, and then the natives combined with the natives, which the Democrats like to call rape because it's colonialism and it's, and all this European stuff in there. Of course, they're defending the Danish crown owning Greenland. President Trump talks about it, and the Democrats are defending kings. Immediately, King Frederick X of Denmark, who the Democrats are defending. They're defending colonialism, and they're defending colonial holdings, geographic holdings in the New World. That's Greenland and the Danish, Denmark, all of that. The Democrat Party is mentally ill. They don't know what they're talking. And AOC, who thinks she's some kind of ethnic gift to somebody because of her caboose, she just amazing stuff. She's like, oh, yeah, sure, I think the Mexicans want to talk to somebody about where cowboys come from. Well, the natives didn't have horses, so it's hard to be a cowboy without a horse. Let's start with that, bimbo patrol. Honestly, more bimbo eruptions. I think the Democrats coined the turn of phrase bimbo eruptions when Bill Clinton was sexually assaulting every woman that came into the White House and the governor's mansion in Little Rock before that. The bimbo eruptions, they labeled it. And honestly, I think AOC is one walking bimbo eruption. That's just to borrow a Democrat turn of phrase. Isn't that great? There were no horses. There were no Mexicans before the Spanish got there. There were natives, and then Cortez, the conquistador, and his gang of murderous, barbarous European rapists, they came to the Americas and they brought horses, and they brought the lasso and everything else, but never mind that. So she has no idea. And then the idiots applaud and laugh with her, saying, oh, we're all ignorant sluts, too. We have no idea what we're doing. Isn't that great? Just wonderful. And then she was, and we played this one yesterday. This is the Munich Defense Conference, the old Verkunda Conference, and said, well, if you're president, and they're talking to her like she's president, if you're president and Taiwan is attacked by China, will the United States defend Taiwan?
Would and should the U.S. actually commit U.S. troops to defend Taiwan if China were to move?
Listen to this.
I think that
what?
This is.
What do you think?
Such a.
What is?
I think that.
What? What do you think?
This is a.
What is it? Tell me.
This is, of course,
Of course it is.
A very long-standing.
What is it?
Policy of the United States.
What is?
And I think what we are hoping for is that we want to make sure that we never.
get to that point.
Hope.
And we want to make sure that we are moving in all of our economic research and our global positions to avoid any such confrontation and for that question to even arise.
Yeah, I'm sorry. What is your and there are headlines everywhere today from left-wing outlets that make it sound like their girl for the presidential race in 2028 is AOC, the New Republic left-wing rag, like so many. The headline is, "You know what? Question mark. Maybe the time is right for an AOC presidential bid." Wait till you hear the updates on what AOC said in Munich coming up. All right, so AOC, yeah, they literally at the New Republic left-wing lunatics, typical self-described liberals, you know. The headline is, "You know what? Question mark. Maybe the time is right for an AOC presidential bid. She's only 36. Sure. And there is good argument that she should run for Senate and bide her time, but she also could be a formidable White House candidate." And they think, well, you know, Biden was dumb and Kamala was dumb, but maybe AOC's dumber. We should go with her. Now, here's AOC. Here she is, the latest one. Venezuela. There again. What am I, a biologist? What am I, a cartographer? What am I, a geologist? Here's AOC and getting everything wrong again.
Look at what happened in Venezuela, for example.
Venezuela.
It is not a. It is.
Bueno?
It is not a remark on.
No bueno?
Who Maduro was as a leader. He canceled elections. He was an anti-democratic leader. That doesn't mean that we can kidnap
a
head of state and engage in acts of war just because the nation is below the equator.
Yes. Only one problem. Yeah. Kidnap. How many people did Obama assassinate, including American citizens overseas, over and over again? One problem here. Venezuela is not below the equator. Venezuela is north of the equator, but she very confidently, always wrong but never in doubt, ignorant bimbo, and the Democrats want to run that for president. Yeah, we got Wes Moore. And a little bit of an update. There hadn't been an update of any real substance in the Guthrie kidnapping in Arizona in a long time. But what there is, I'll update for you. Yeah, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And here the left-wing, perfectly mainstream left-wing stuff, the New Republic. And you know what? Maybe the time is right for AOC for a presidential bid. She's only 36, and there's a good argument that she should run for Senate, right, in New York, and bide her time, because Chuck Schumer, he died some time ago, and he's a Satan worshiper, but she also could be a formidable White House candidate. See that, because that's what they're writing at the New Republican. I say, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez sure looks like a presidential candidate this weekend. She attended a policy conference in Munich, where the Nazis gathered, that often draws potential White House hopefuls, including Governor Gavin Newsom and Senator Ruben Gallego. I'm sorry, Ruben Gallego thinks he's running for president? Her aides, she has a vast staff on Capitol Hill. You know why? Even her aides have AIDS. See, it's an old joke. It's the even her aides have AIDS joke there. Her aides previewed her remarks to the media and told reporters who had advised her on them. And they're excited to announce that former Bernie Sanders foreign policy hack, Matt Duss, has been advising Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Boy, we're talking about the dumbest circle fest in the dumbest hot tub ever here. As presidential campaigns often do, and in multiple appearances on stage, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez spoke in broad presidential-y language. They say presidential-y, presidential-y language, calling for a rules-based order. They want to imprison everyone in the United States. And a working class-centered politics. Working class-centered politics. So they say, should AOC run for president? Among those rumored to be considering 2028 candidacies, I'm most aligned with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on policy. That's what they say at the New Republic right here. It's the New Republic where they're writing this. And Perry Bacon, I think he might have been a Washington Post hack before he was a Communist Party hack out in the light of day. Isn't that amazing? Yes, sir. And they're going on. And Maine upstart Platner is attacking people. Remains viable U.S. Senate candidate even after his Nazi tattoo and other controversies. That was a fabrication by the Democrats. It's not a Nazi tattoo. I think it's a cross or something. But to Democrats, everything is Nazism. Every bus they get on is a gas chamber because of their mental illnesses. But we got one more because the communist idiot bimbo who thinks that if you're going to say Venezuela is south of the equator, then you should know that Venezuela is south of the equator. But it's not south of the equator. It's entirely north of the equator. And she said that, so she doesn't check anything. But here she is being asked by another Euro bimbo who has bleach blonde hair, and she asked her, well, aren't you a communist? Don't you think we should steal everything from people that are successful? And here's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on the wealth tax.
When you run for president, are you going to impose a wealth tax or a billionaire's tax?
I don't think that...
United States.
I don't think that anyone, and that we don't have to wait for any one president to impose a wealth tax. I think that it needs to be done expeditiously.
And interestingly, when I wrote about wealth tax recently, and of course the big argument against this is always capital flight, the U.S. is actually uniquely placed to do it because you guys tax on the basis of citizenship, so people can't flee.
People can't flee as much as people want to. When the communists come, and you can look at Venezuela, which is north of the equator, and the wealth tax that the communists imposed there, Hugo Chavez, and wealth fled. All of the wealthy people said, well, we're out of here. We're going to the United States where we don't have communists in charge. And now the communists, the Democrat Party, here they come. One of my old sayings, it's another great old saying, the left is coming for your rights. The left is coming for your rights, and they're coming for your money, too. And she's planning, a wealth tax, and the Green New Deal, and a 60 to 70% marginal tax rate on income over $10 million. So if you make more than $10 million, they'll take 70% of it. Right? So you make $1 million, and for every $1 million you make, they take 700,000, maybe 800,000, and you get to keep what's left because the tax man, that's 1 for you, 19 for me. These people are so stupid that they don't even know they're communists and that they're working towards civil war in Western civilization because they're criminals here to steal everything from successful people in order to enrich themselves, like Hugo Chavez did in Venezuela. And according to multiple reports, the wealthiest person in Venezuela to this day is the daughter of Hugo Chavez, who's worth more than $4 billion because she picked up some overtime shifts down at the Popeyes. Or she and her father stole billions of dollars from people that actually earned the money, and they nationalized everything and stole everything. But there is AOC, the wealth tax, because you got to have the wealth tax. President Trump was on Air Force One yesterday, and he spoke to the press for so long that he answered at least one question about everything under the sun. And President Trump was asked, hey, you watching the Munich defense conference there? AOC's there, and the Democrats are talking about her running for president. Don't you think that the bimbo in the tight pants shouldn't just be a bartender? She should be president of the United States?
By the way, I watched AOC answering questions in Munich. This was not a good look for the United States. I watched Gavin Newsom answering questions in Munich, and this was a bad look for our country. These two people are incompetent. And at least Hillary's competent. She's just Trump deranged.
Ah, yes, Trump deranged. And it's true. What is she? Well, gosh, we got to take care of things south of the equator. And even though the country is north of the equator, we need a wealth tax. We definitely need a wealth tax to drive people from the country and all this. And Taiwan, yes, she doesn't know any. And this is while she's pitching herself as the next president of the United States. The wealth tax and Venezuela and the equator, and she is as dumb as a stump.
That doesn't mean that we can kidnap a head of state and engage in acts of war just because the nation is below the equator.
Yeah.
And
they clap. They all clap. Yay, because the nation's south of the equator, it's beneath the equator. Yeah, she's a sharp one, isn't she? Yes, sir. She's not the sharpest bulb in the constellation, is she? That's a double mixed metaphor for Democrats because they don't understand the English language. They've got a lot of trouble. All right, let's take a phone call, Michael. Let's go to Colleen calling from Germantown, Maryland. Sounds very German. Colleen, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hi, Chris. My name is Pauline.
Oh, Pauline. I'm so sorry. My apologies.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to say something short about AOC. She was a total embarrassment, see?
Yeah.
And Newsome, whoever he is. I mean, she couldn't answer the question. I felt embarrassed for this country. I'm telling you, she need to go hide it in her basement or somewhere. She don't need to be going to Germany or trying to represent this country. It was so embarrassing. Yep, she couldn't answer no questions. She fumbling and mumbling like her former boss.
Yeah, well, if she goes to the basement, then she's definitely running for president because that's what Joe Biden did when he ran for president, and he won.
Well, she ain't gonna win, trust me. She wouldn't win. That woman, this country would go right down if she's become president. I just want to say she's an embarrassment. I don't know. The Democrats, I can't stand them. They're so sick. They all have nothing but hate in their heart. That's all.
That's a fact. You're 100% right about that. And
yeah.
Pauline, you speak beautifully and you have a lovely accent. Where are you from originally?
Originally from Guyana.
Guyana, okay. Very good.
Yeah, it's bounded between Venezuela and Brazil. Yeah.
Right. That's okay. Yeah, Guyana. Okay. Very good. Very good. And there's French Guyana and then non-French Guyana.
Yeah, French Guyana is towards the east. And Guyana and Venezuela is to the west, Brazil to the south, and Guyana is to the north.
Devil's Island, the old French Guyana.
There's where Jim Jones went.
Jim Jones went to Guyana, and the Jonestown death cult. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, sadly, that's kind of what Guyana is known for, isn't it? Is the Jonestown. And you know, Pauline, that they were building a socialist paradise in Guyana before they all murdered themselves.
Yeah. But that president died, Forbes Burnham, because I worked with him as a photographer, news photographer there, before I'm over in this country now about 45, 50 years.
Oh, no kidding. Wow. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
But the Venezuelans now are trying to take the oil, they said that 3/4 of Guyana belongs to them. So a lot of them is pouring over in Guyana, and they
colonial.
don't have a very good army over there. They have to depend on America for help.
They have to depend on America for help, because why would they invest in their own military to defend themselves when America can just be called up with the police?
Oil there now. They discover a lot of oil there now, and you have Exxon and those places out there.
Yeah. Well, and of course, Hugo Chavez stole all of that, nationalized all of that, right? Yeah.
He did.
Yeah.
But he's in the right place now.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Yeah. You're wonderful.
Okay.
That's great. Pauline, I apologize for calling you Colleen. I'm going to take the fall for that.
Okay. That's a nice name, too. My mother should have given me that name.
It is. Paul, I actually like Pauline better. I think Pauline is a great name. That really is. That's wonderful. And you are wonderful, and I love your laugh, and I'm glad that you called in.
Thank you so much, Chris. I always listen to your show. You're great. You're the greatest. Okay,
you're very kind. Thank you, Pauline. And that kid, and that wonderful. Yeah, and it's true. Yeah, Guyana. What is Guyana known for? Left-wing Americans went down there from San Francisco and Oakland, California. The Reverend Jim Jones, because they were building that cult, was about a socialist cult. It was a socialist paradise cult. And they were ruining everything in San Francisco and in Oakland. So they up and moved to Guyana in South America. And that's where the Kool-Aid, that's the old phrase, really drank the Kool-Aid, comes from Jonestown, where 900 plus people died because the socialists killed them all and got them all to commit suicide because their socialist paradise wasn't working out. When a Democrat congressman flew down there from California to see what was going on, Leo Ryan, and they shot and killed the congressman and shot up the entire crew. In fact, a guy that I used to work with was there, Steve Sung. Steve Sung was an NBC News cameraman who went down to Jonestown with Leo Ryan before the mass suicide. And my friend Steve Sung was shot by the crazy people there through the arm. They shot him with an AK-47. He had survived the Vietnam War. And the Democrats turned it into crazy land because they're nuts.
In an effort to shore up support among his followers, Jones vilifies the outside world.
Jones had said that a fascist government was going to take over and was going to throw African Americans in prison camps, much like Nazis had done to Jews in the Holocaust.
Jim Jones and the Democrats of today. The Democrats have adopted the Jim Jones talking points. Can the national mass suicide be far behind? That was a PBS documentary on the Jonestown massacre, the mass suicide, allegedly. And, and what is the rhetoric that Jim Jones was using? He was going to have a socialist paradise, and they had to escape because the fascists were coming, and they're racists, and they're going to put black people in camps. All right, let's go back to the phones, Michael. Let's go to Steve, calling from Northwest Indiana, which might be the vicinity of Gary, Indiana, or even South Bend. Stephen, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Yeah, maybe Jasmine thought it was Colleen because of the Irish accent.
Could have been Colleen because of the Irish accent. She didn't say you were Colleen, though, just Pauline.
No, I was listening to the call. But anyways, I could talk to you for an hour, man. But Jesse Jackson, okay, he came to my dad's cousin's restaurant in Gary, little neighborhood called Miller. It was sort of like a Ponderosa, okay. He came in there and he says, "You don't have enough black people working here." There was about 20 people working, and 3 of them were black. My dad's cousin said, "Listen, you don't come tell me who I hire and who I don't. I hired every one of these people personally because I know them all personally." He said, "Well, you don't have enough black people here." So they picketed outside his restaurant for like a week. And so he thought, about a mile down the road here is the county line. And it's a different county and a different town over there. So he starts researching. He develops another restaurant over there in a town called Portage. And a few years later, he moved out of the Gary restaurant into the Portage, where he wouldn't have to deal with Jesse Jackson and Mayor Richard Hatcher. The historians tell you that the Gary emptied out because of all the jobs that were lost in the steel industry. Well, that's not true. The white people fled, which is, the money fleeing. They fled because of the white people were no longer welcome in Gary. They were told that.
Yeah.
This is our town now. After Hatcher became mayor, this is our town now. You all need to get out. So they all got out, which is a lot like, the wealth tax and these other things you're talking about, And Ocasio-Cortez, I think she should research her background. And if she is related to Cortez, I think she should resign.
She should probably self-immolate.
Neil Young, Cortez, what a killer. There's a good song you could put in your bumper rotation.
That's good stuff. Yeah. Hey, listen, Steve. The Democrats they know that there are a million ways to destroy the world, and they're working on all of them: economically, culturally, linguistically, racially, ethnically. The Democrats drive wedges everywhere to divide people. The Confederate states live on.